I'm Laura Brandenburg from Bridging the Gap, and today we're going to talk about how to create a business analyst timeline or a business analyst estimate. Because here is a scenario I know I ran into as a business analyst, and I'm sure it's faced you as well. You receive like a short request from a stakeholder about a new project. It's been given top priority by your manager or your CEO or whoever it is that's like in charge, right? And it's the next project you're going to be looking into. And of course, before you can even schedule the first meeting with the business sponsor to get some more information and to figure out kind of what your next steps should be, your project manager swings by your desk and asks you how long you think it will take. Not sure? He thinks 40 hours sounds like about enough time, and so let's just move forward with that estimate. Now, if you're anything like me, that kind of like estimate being created for you kind of like raises my blood pressure and my anxiety and makes my chest feel constricted, right? So you do what a good business analyst does and you take a deep breath and you reread the stakeholder request. And you have no idea what it means, even let alone like how long it's going to take you to define the requirements documentation for the project. In fact, then you realize it's a new stakeholder group and a new system that you haven't worked with before. And the last time you heard, the developers on that team expected the business analyst to get pretty technical with their requirements. So you're just feeling a little bit nervous about this project and especially about that estimate. So what do you do? Right? What I would do in this situation is to first be really clear with the project manager that you can't possibly provide a reasonable estimate and timeline until you understand a few more things about the project, most notably the scope of the stakeholder request and some expectations about what your role will be on this new team. And then I'd give a set of steps and a target date for obtaining that information and providing a plan, right? So you take back control of the process. That's not giving them the answer of like, how long do you think it's going to take? But it is a reasonable deferral. And then it allows you to start to move forward. So then following the business analysis process framework that we teach at Bridging the Gap, and we'll link to that below for you, what I would do is schedule a meeting with the primary business stakeholder and to ask a few questions about the request. You want to identify who the stakeholders are, gauge how that person has worked with business analysts before, see how clear they are about their business problem and the scope of what they want to have accomplished. And I'd also ask the lead developer on that system to lunch or to set up some sort of an informal meeting, right? And discuss his relationships with previous business analysts and share some of my concerns about getting technical with the requirements since I don't have the technical background in that particular system. I'd also confirm my stakeholder list with the project manager, taking time to also update him on my progress and if my target date for a real estimate was still reasonable. And then schedule a meeting to discuss the primary business objectives. So that is step 2 in our business analysis process framework, is clarifying the business objectives. And if you want to go through that in detail, we do have a link below to our quick start workshop at bridgingthegap.com/quick, where we give you a full overview of that framework. So I would, as I'm confirming those business objectives, I would want to confirm what I'd heard from the stakeholder about the project with the project manager, also to make sure I wasn't getting off track and to make sure that there's not a misalignment between the other people who are providing input to me. Right? But I still wouldn't have the estimate that the project manager wants, and that 40 hours still might feel like it's hanging over my head. In fact, I might have used up like 10 of those hours at this point, right? But I'm getting closer and I'm moving the project forward. So after that business objectives discussion, it is clear, let's just say, that there's a pressing and narrow need, right? Like we have this very specific thing we need to do, and that's why I was given such a small estimate, because everybody understands that it's like this specific piece of work that we're trying to get done, and it's specifically urgent. So I'm feeling a little bit better about the focus and the urgency and my role and what all the pieces are falling into place. And everybody's also seems like they're a bit on the same page, which is also helpful and lends itself to a smooth requirements process. So I meet with the lead developer and discuss the problem, and he comes up with a few possible solution approaches. I also confirm what requirements documentation or package is going to work best for that person and how they'd like to be involved going forward. It's in building a relationship. This is something that's really important all throughout your requirements process. And it turns out he's fine taking on this technical specification as long as I get the functional requirements down really clearly. And that's my sweet spot. I know use cases, I know user stories, I know wireframes. So like this is like something I feel like I can do really well at. So in my next meeting, we discuss the pros and cons of each solution approach. This is step 3 in the business analysis process framework with the business stakeholders, and they are motivated, and so they choose the least complex option. And I have everything I need at that point to draft a scope statement. And since time is of the essence, I also start working ahead a little bit on drafting my business analyst plan. Now at this point, I want to just show you what a business analyst plan often will look like. So on the screen now, you should see a spreadsheet. It's a pretty simple spreadsheet, and what it's showing you is across the top here you just have some basic project information. But then you have an ID column, and then you have a deliverable column, right? So deliverable name. So if you said you were going to analyze 3 business processes and write 3 or 5 use cases, you would have each individual use case and each individual business process listed here. Now that information is going to come from that scope statement, right? And the scope statement is also deliverable, so that could be listed here. So you would have those different deliverables listed out. Then you would estimate the effort that would go from you as the business analyst that goes into that deliverable. So is that a 4-hour deliverable? Is that a 12-hour deliverable, right? You want to add that up. And then you look at the start date and the end date. Now, just because it's a 4-hour deliverable doesn't mean you start and end it next Tuesday, right? There might be some stakeholder feedback you need to account for. There might be some review processes. So you want to give, like, is this a 1-week duration? Is it 2 weeks? Like how long from a duration perspective are you going to need? You can use this to track your status and also who is involved. And this is really important because often when we are given an estimate or a timeline, it's just assumed that us as the business analyst can kind of magically come up with the entire answer, right? And that's not the case. We are very, very dependent on other stakeholders. And so we want to be clear in our planning and our timeline and our estimates who we need involved and how much we need their involvement. And so this requirements planning tool or business analyst timeline and estimation tool really provides you with the way to start to communicate that. All right, so you are then starting to get a head start on that, and you're not ready necessarily to make a commitment yet until the stakeholders really confirm the scope statement. But you are starting to draft out what that estimate would be. And of course, most likely, your estimate is going to be larger than what the project manager had just kind of given you off the cuff. Like say, you went through this process and you decided, it's about 100 hours of time on top of the maybe 20 or 25 hours you've already invested to get to this point, and that given your other priorities and stakeholder commitments, perhaps that will take 5 to 6 weeks to complete, right? And so you have a timeline to show them and an estimate to show them. And, maybe that's not acceptable given the urgency of the project, but now you can have an actual conversation about what deliverables you're creating, what the expectations are of your role, what your availability is, and you can make adjustments from a place of information and not assumption. So perhaps some of those other projects can get taken off your plate. Perhaps your stakeholders can be more available so that you can move through things in a more rapid way. All kinds of possibilities open up. Once you have your business analyst plan in place, it gives you a really strong position to put a timeline together and to have a conversation about your timeline with your project manager. All right, so that was a lot of information. I hope you took a lot away from this. If you want to dig deeper into that business analysis process framework I mentioned a few times, you can go ahead and join our Quick Start to Success workshop. That link is below. It'll walk you through that entire process. And if you want a copy of that template, that is included with our BA Essentials Masterclass and also with the Business Analyst Blueprint certification program. And we also teach you not just, we teach you how to use it and how to fill it in and how to create it for your specific project. As always, I'm here for you. I'm really looking forward to seeing you have more success and more empowering conversations with your project managers about estimates and timelines. My name is Laura Brandenburg. I'm from Bridging the Gap, and we build our profession one business analyst at a time. And our biggest success is seeing you succeed in your business analyst career.